Hello. I just woke up a little bit ago and the Lord was giving me this word. It's a little bit of a spin off of the word I put out yesterday. Speaking about that the good Lord will change the world slowly. Lord, speak through me. It was a lot and I've just woken up, so I hope that He comes through and helps me to speak out about the things He was telling me, but sorry, I had to yawn. So the Lord is basically saying, this is like a spin-off of yesterday's word, where I was talking about how people are influential, right? So as we know, there's like social media influencers like on TikTok and on YouTube and different social media platforms. Well, the Lord is raising up His own set of influential people. And these people are the chosen ones, right? And we've heard a lot about this over the last years because it is a thing. Now, the Lord's influencers are posting online as well via social media and apps and things like that, like YouTube and Patreon and things like that. But their influence is yielded from a different place. Their influence is to try to change things. So the current social media influencers that we see are a part of the problem. They're encouraging people to continue to fall into, these traps of the devil, traps of the enemy, basically. They're encouraging men to cheat. They're encouraging women to basically act like men. And that's the other thing, too, that the Lord was saying yesterday, is that now the reason why we're having issues in male-female relationships is because the men are becoming like women and the women are becoming like men. Men have testosterone. They're meant to be men. They're meant to lead. They're meant to pay. They're meant to work. They're meant to take care. They're meant to provide. They're meant to work out. They're meant to be the strong ones physically, mentally, emotionally, right? But because of the contrast, women have had to step up because men aren't holding their weight. Men aren't paying for their family. Men aren't protecting and providing. Men aren't being the strong ones mentally and emotionally. They're not reliable, things like that. So women have really had no choice but to have to play both roles of mom and dad, woman and man, right? And so here we have the women paying, we have the women working, we have the women working out to get stronger physically and mentally and emotionally. And like the women are trying to play the role of the man and the woman, not because they're control freaks, but because the men aren't playing their part. So the women have to do it because someone has to do it, right? Someone has to pay for the family. Someone has to keep the bills paid. Someone has to go and till the land if they're living off the grid, things like this, right? Things that men did 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. But then likewise, because women are doing that, it's causing the roles to reverse. And then now we see men even taking it a step further where they're dressing more feminine and they're expecting women to pay and they're expecting women to chase them and like women to court them and women to propose to them and plan the wedding. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the women are expected to do everything, right? And so, sorry, I'm going to jump around in this message just like I did in yesterday's because it's a lot of information that the Lord's given me at once. But so the Lord is saying He's resetting that. He's bringing men back to being men, right? Male, testosterone, and putting women back in women role with estrogen. Allowing women to be feminine like they're intended to be. Allowing men to be masculine like they're intended to be. No more men being feminine and women being masculine. And the Lord is saying another thing that's thrown this off is, I think it's called EMF. I don't know if that's right, but it's like basically the radio waves or radiation that the cell phone puts off, like the 5G network and all that stuff. That's causing a scrambling of things, right? Internally, because that's something we weren't doing 100 years ago. Our diet, the food quality that's being presented to us, it's intentionally created with such a chemical compound that it can also scramble us internally as well. So the foods we're consuming, also the social media aspect, right? Social media, everybody's inundated with it every day. That's scrambling things as well. And of course, all these same things are scrambling our youth too, right? And it's even worse with the youth because they're developing. They're actually developing as we go. So, and then even like influencers, men influence other men to cheat. Women influence other women to be, dirty, downright bad, like, examples, right, of a female for each other and to their children. So there's like an influential thing going on, and there's this thing of like, oh, your woman's, doing this or that, well, just leave her, that's why you got 3 girls on the go, right, bro? Or like with women, it's like, oh, your man's not paying, well, then you go get a better job, you pay, and you kick him out, you get rid of him, or whatever. Like, it's just kind of like this toxic mentality around things. So anyway, so the Lord is using the Lord's raising up his own team of influencers, and this is his chosen ones, and they're going to be influential in taking things back to normal, right? Because if everybody has the same thinking, then who's going to change the pattern? And so this is what I was explaining yesterday, is that at one point, the majority of people thought on a similar brainwave. Not everybody, right? But a lot of people did 30, 40, 50 years ago. But over the last 20, 30 years, the brainwave has shifted to where now the majority of people are thinking a different way. And the Lord is saying that even people that didn't think this way 10, 15 years ago, they've adopted this line of thinking. And it's been because of the influence, because whatever the masses do is what people do. If the masses are, putting out, promoting, especially to like the youth and stuff, because the youth run things a little more than we give them credit for. We look at them as just young children, as kids, but actually like the teens and stuff, how they behave and act and conduct themselves influences the society, influences teachers, influences society, influences parents, right? So it's a two-stranded cord, because the the elders, the adults, influence the youth and the teens and the tweens, and basically the like 8 to 18-year-olds, but then the 8 to 18-year-olds influence the adults as well, so it goes back and forth. And so that's another way that you're chosen, is because you're chosen to, like I said yesterday, there's trendsetters and trend followers. The people that aren't chosen are trend followers, and the people that are chosen are trendsetters. And there's been people in the past that weren't chosen by God, and they were setting a trend of stupidity, basically. I don't know how else to put it, foolishness and stupidity. But luckily, the Lord is raising up chosen ones to shift gears back to normality, like putting things right, how it's supposed to be, And so again, like I say yesterday, it took time for things to shift in this negative, foolish direction, and therefore it's going to take time for things to shift back into place. But the Lord is doing it through the Lord's power, through his healing of things, but then also his raising up of his chosen ones that he's chosen as influencers, because they are influential. It's going to take time, but it's working. The more women that promote a sense of self-respect, modesty, classiness, putting priorities first, and having those priorities more so focused on, like I was saying yesterday, your smarts, your skills, your talents, your hobbies, like things you're good at. Like, so if you're good at cooking, you focus on that. If you're good at gardening, you focus on that. If you're good at, teaching, you focus on that. Like things that are positive, influential type of goals to teach your daughter and your son. Like teaching your children basics of life, not teaching your daughter how to get money, not teaching your daughter how to look cute, not teaching your son how to, run the streets. Not trying to teach your son how to disrespect women or themselves or others, you know what I'm saying? Like men being men and training up their children as such, especially their sons, and women being women and training up their children as such, especially their daughters. Because I've said this before, the Lord is very concerned about the youth. Like I just said, the youth is they're influential and they're easily influenced. So the adults are influencing the youth, but the youth also influences society as well. It's a two-stranded cord back and forth, right? And I call it that because it's braided together, because these things circumvent with each other. They're not separate, right? Parents raise kids, and kids live in the home with parents. So if if the Lord has his chosen ones, and say there's a minority of women, a minority of men that have been delegated as influential chosen ones, the Lord has been pushing on them to go to social media and put their material out, like myself and like others. We're going on the very same platforms as these so-called influencers, but we come with a much better message. This is a message for the betterment of society, right? And it's to better ourselves and better each other. And we're already starting to see it, where more and more people are attending church, more and more people are accepting Jesus in their heart, more and more people are converting from false religions and false ideals and false doctrines to the one and only truth, and that's the way of Jesus Christ and Father God, right? We're seeing that more and more on a daily basis. I personally have seen more and more Christian content being put out and attracted to by the masses today than ever before, and even more 6 months ago than before that, and it'll be even more so 6 months from now than today. It's a wave that's growing and growing, which is amazing and awesome. Glory to God. But that's intentional, right? That's intentional. The Lord is intentionally delegating his chosen ones, his males and females, the woman being the picture of the ideal woman that the Lord is trying to recreate, and the man being the picture of the ideal man that he's trying to recreate. Not all people that speak about being chosen are actually truly chosen, but for those that truly are, which the Lord is saying the majority are truly, like they are genuine, the women that I see are showing themselves as natural, they're showing themselves as classy, they're showing themselves as respectful to themselves and to others, they're showing themselves as wise, discerning, they're showing themselves as skilled and beautiful, naturally beautiful, where if they put on some makeup and do themselves up, they look amazing. If they don't do that and they just go all natural that day, they're embracing what they have, what the good Lord's given them, and they're beautiful either way, right? This is what I'm noticing. Then with men, I'm seeing men where they're masculine, but not in an aggressive way. They're assertively masculine. They're respectful to themselves and those around them. They have an understanding of what their role is in the world and what they represent and how they should conduct themselves. They are promoting semen retention, where, stop trying to just like go full bore lust and pornography and all this other stuff. Like, keep yourself celibate, keep yourself to yourself, have some self-respect, control yourself, control your temper, control your spending, control your mouth, control your hands, right? Where they're promoting just a healthier person, a healthier self-esteem, a healthier mindset. And so are women, right? And so where we're clean on the inside and the outside, clean mind, clean heart, clean mouth, clean hands, clean everything. Now, of course, nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to think negative sometimes, or speak negative sometimes, or act negative sometimes. This is to be expected. God is not expecting us as a society to be perfect. And never have we been. We've never been perfect. Not in the 1920s, not in the 1940s, not in the 1960s, not in the 1980s. We've never been a perfect society, ever. Even in the Bible, 2,000 years ago, it talks about imperfection and people doing each other wrong, right? But that's not what I mean. I'm meaning that the mindset that people have nowadays, the way that they conduct themselves, males, females, youth, seniors, it just became completely toxic. And the Lord is saying that, yes, that is to our own choices, but that we couldn't help it if we try, because we're purposely inundated with it through the chemicals in our food, through the pollution in our air, through the EMF waves that come from our devices, through social media, through influence, people influencing our spouses, people influencing our children, people influencing our family members. So even if you were on the perfect track and you got it just check marked, you got it all the way, there's so many people around you in society, you couldn't even walk to the park and back without having some sort of influence. While you're at that park, there would be people talking in a certain way, right? On your way there, you'd see advertisements for certain things. You know what I'm saying? If you were listening to music or radio or podcast, you'd be on your way there, you'd be influenced by what they're saying. So you cannot escape it no matter what. And the Lord understands that. That's why I said yesterday he allowed us to get so far off course, because he's bringing us back to reset, right? And so the Lord is saying that that's what he's doing. He's leading by example at this time. He used influencers in the past to lead by an example, and people followed that bad example, and now they're seeing the results of that. And so now the Lord is setting, because we've done that, we've seen that, the Lord is setting up a new standard, a new example that we'll have to follow, that we can now follow, and we'll see the results from that. And so the Lord is saying that for whatever reason, he wants things to be led by an example. And so he was even showing me, like, in the event, this is a little off topic, but in the event that you're on the kingdom spouse journey and you have a kingdom spouse, and there's been a third party in the mix, a counterfeit, so to speak, the Lord is allowing that counterfeit and that spouse to be in the mix together. And why? Is because he wants your spouse to see by the example that the counterfeit puts out that counterfeit is not the right thing, that's not the right fit. And then also vice versa, the Lord is allowing the counterfeit in the mix so that the counterfeit can see that the spouse is not the right fit, okay? Because like the Lord was showing me, he said, yes, I can go and I can touch these situations. I can touch your spouse and make your spouse change poof instantly like that to where they are how you would prefer them to be, right? I mean, we're talking about the Lord, a source that makes sunsets and mountains. So the Lord is saying, yes, it's completely within my power to just go tap things on the shoulder. I mean, he healed the woman with the issue of blood and the blind man, the paralyzed man. He can tap people on the shoulder and heal them and just make their mindset perfectly correct, right? But for whatever reason, because the Lord's ways are higher than my ways and your ways and our ways, he does what he does, why he does. So he has a reason why he wants to take the long way home. And the Lord was highlighting to me that there's several reasons, but one of the reasons that applies to this message is that he's leading everything by an example. So even the Lord was showing me, like, our government, okay? It's not a coincidence that within the same week, and I'm going to talk very candidly here because, I mean, it's all over the news anyways, so why not? It's not a coincidence that in the last week here, we saw Biden and Trump's debate and how much Biden failed on his debate. And we've seen little hiccups and flub-ups from him before this in the last 6 months, and we're going to continue to see it over the next 6 months. Why? Is because the Lord can easily just come and take that, like, change that government and change things around and have him be impeached or, whatever. Like, there's different things that the Lord can create to have President Biden not be in the mix anymore, right? But the Lord is showing us by example of what's beneficial and what's not beneficial, right? Because why else would he have this dwindling of this scenario, something that's just dwindling down and dwindling away that could just be cut off in nanoseconds, but instead there's like the slow dwindling of it. And again, that's intentional, and that's not it. Is it not coincidental that during the very same week in Canada, the Prime Minister Trudeau loses his riding in the by-election from Toronto, or Ontario, is that not a coincidence when you have the Liberal Party and being represented by Trudeau that's losing that riding and that standing that's been established for decades, but then coincidentally at the very same exact week time frame you have the debate between Trump and Biden and how poorly Biden did, and because I saw it. And so I don't follow politics very closely, but I do follow the fact that Biden is the current president of USA and his complete dwindling away and his flub-ups. And then it's not lost on me that circumstantially at the exact same time, we have Prime Minister Trudeau going through the same type of year as Biden has with these various dwindlings and flub-ups as well, right? And the Lord is highlighting to me, like, that's not a coincidence. When else in the history have we seen like either America has it wrong and Canada has it right, or Canada has it wrong and America has it right? But when have we ever in history seen such just, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the polite words to say, but just complete foolishness and foolery from both countries at the exact same time, from Canada and the USA simultaneously? Like when? Canada has a very insufficient leader at this time, and the States have an insufficient leader at this time. And so the Lord is highlighting, and this is not new. The Lord has given me words speaking about the government fallout since all the way back since January time, even before that. And so here the Lord, like, prophecy is coming true. It was prophesied months and months ago that we were going to see the dwindling down of the leadership of Canada and the dwindling down the leadership of the USA. And sure enough, here we are and it's happening. And the Lord said no end in sight. He is going to continue over the duration of these next 6 months to have President Biden and Prime Minister Trudeau dwindling down and continuing with these flub ups and things, and we're going to continue to see this, like, again, I'm just trying to think of the proper polite way the Lord wants me to speak, Lord. But just this dwindling away of their skills and their positioning and things like their leadership quality and things like this. It's fall, like, they're falling, and they're just going to continue to spiral and fall down. Okay, more or less. And that's intentional, right? And so I say to the Lord, well, why? Like, you do make sunsets and mountains. You do everything. You can, nothing is outside of your power. So therefore, why not just, cut it off why not just cut off this prime minister and cut off this president, especially when the people of Canada and the people of America are so, they're aware they're being led by an insufficient leader, and they're aware that they're going to hell in a handbasket, so to speak, and they want things changed. But the Lord is saying no, because he's leading by example. He's using this current prime minister to show our country what we don't want, what we don't need, and also showing our future leadership what they should do different, right? So the Lord is using Prime Minister Trudeau as an example. And vice versa, the Lord is using President Biden as an example to show the Americans, how they vote, maybe what is considered an insufficient leader, what kinds of things actually matter, things like that. And so anyway, so that's a little bit about that, because the Lord was showing me that as well. But the Lord was just saying that he's leading society by example through our government officials. The fact that it's bumbling Trudeau and bumbling Biden, that's not coincidental. That's intentional. And we're going to continue to see this spiraling away, because the Lord is using it on purpose for the betterment of society as a whole, the betterment of Canada and the betterment of America, to show who these bumbling, insufficient leaders are, to lead by example. Even if the example isn't a great one, that's still intentional too. And so the Lord is saying also with that, he could turn around and cut off the spouse from the counterfeit and the counterfeit from the spouse. Yes, of course. But the Lord is intentionally using that bumbling counterfeit that's insufficient to show the spouse how this counterfeit is not a good fit, right? And vice versa, the Lord is using the bumbling spouse in regards to the counterfeit to show the counterfeit how this bumbling spouse is not a good fit. The Lord could have cut off Biden and Trudeau, but instead he's wanting Biden and Trudeau to see how they're not a good fit for leadership. And he's also in turn showing society, as in the country of America and the country of Canada, how these two individuals are not sufficient for leadership. And again, you could say, why? Well, I don't know, I'm just telling you, this is what the Lord said to me, that this is what he's doing. He could also simultaneously cut off this spouse and counterfeit situation, but he's using it intentionally with the same way, as that he's wanting to show the spouse how this counterfeit is insufficient and not a good fit. And he's also using the spouse to show this counterfeit how the spouse is insufficient and not a good fit, right? And So it's not even so much about the person per se. Your spouse is fine. The counterfeit is one thing on their own, but together it's not a good mix. Biden is one thing on his own, Trudeau's one thing on his own, but as appointed leaders of a country, it's not a good mix, right? And the same with these influencers that we're seeing on social media and that have high followings and stuff. It's not necessarily that it's, the person per se, is that their influence on society and on their followers is not a good mix. The message that the counterfeit is putting out to the spouse, and the message that the counterfeit is putting out to the spouse is not good. And the message that Trudeau and Biden is putting out to society is not good. And the message that these influencers that have high followings and, high accolades is not good. And the food source that the government is putting out to us as consumers, it's not good. The information that our children are receiving and being around on a day-to-day basis, it's not good. You see? So the things that we are consuming with our eyes, our mouths, our ears, our brains, our hands, our everything, these things are not good. And the Lord is we're aware of that. We're aware that Biden and Trudeau are insufficient leaders. We're aware of that. That's why there's so much backlash from society, right? Your spouse is aware that this counterfeit is not what's up. They're aware of it. We are aware that we're being influenced in the wrong ways. But did we know this stuff to the gravity 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that we know it today? No. And the only reason why we're becoming aware of it is because of the Lord highlighting it to us on a daily basis. The Lord showing us how we're falling short. And so that the Lord is saying that that's one of the only ways that we're going to actually learn. We as society are going to learn what a sufficient leader is by living under an insufficient leader. Your spouse is going to learn what a proper spouse is or relationship is by living under the influence of an insufficient spouse. Right? You and your children are going to learn what's good influential material for them after living under the byproduct of insufficient material. Does that make sense? We're going to learn what a sufficient, proper diet is after having consumed an insufficient diet. So this is the thing, is that the Lord uses negative situations for a reason. He has the power to come and change said things. Poof, and just change them overnight. And in certain ways he does. And he is doing that. He is changing these things overnight, but it's a progressive process. And then you may ask, well, why does it have to be a progressive process? Because the Lord is saying that this is how we learn. This is how we learn, how we learn a better way of going about things, right? Is sometimes we have to learn the hard way as humans. And so the Lord has allowed our youth to be influenced negatively, on purpose, so that he can turn around and influence people positively. And when this positive influence comes, we recognize it. And the only way we're going to recognize it and take it for, and not take it for granted, is if we are aware of what it could be instead. And it's just like when a new leader is appointed and they're doing a much better job, then we will be appreciative of that instead of taking for granted, because we'll know what we lacked when we had the insufficient leader. And same thing for your spouse. When your spouse, when these things are highlighted to the point that they're to be highlighted, your spouse is not going to take you for granted, because your spouse is going to see how maybe you're not perfect. Maybe our new leaders aren't going to be perfect, but they're better than what it was. And you're not perfect either, but you're better than the alternative that your spouse had through this counterfeit. And maybe the chosen ones, the influence they're providing isn't perfect, but it's better than the influential people that were out before this. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes the Lord has to have bad situations happen in order to teach a lesson, so that when the better thing comes round, we can appreciate it for what it really is. And the only way our eyes can be open to appreciate it for what it really is if we had the bad to begin with. If you constantly had good food all the time, you would be craving some bad food, right? But switch the gears, eat the bad food all the time, and now what are you going to be craving? The good food. And so the Lord's just saying that that's how we work as a society, is that we, we're easily influenced into things. And the Lord had allowed us in the past to get off course, where everything we were consuming was negative. Negative foods, negative relationships, negative leadership, negative circumstances. And we got so fed up with it because it went from 10% negativity to 90% negativity that we're like, okay, like we've had enough of this. And the Lord is saying it's only when we've had enough of something that we implement change, that we are cognizant of something different, right? And appreciative of such. And so the Lord is eventually going to be bringing, like I said, better influential stuff, influencers, better leaders, and better government to power, and better relationships, and all these things are on the way. But we had to go through the negative first in order so that when the Lord does bring it round, we don't take it for granted again. We appreciate it, right? Which maybe we didn't in our past. So, one second. Sorry about that. So that's the thing. So the Lord is raising up new influencers to influence men into being better men and a better half of parenting and partnership. Influencing women to be better women and to be a better half of parenting and partnership. Influencing our government to enact an actual, proper leader, and to avoid these pitfalls. So while it may seem, negative right now, and I'm not saying it's not, but while it may seem that way, it actually serves a deeper purpose for positivity to come right back around, okay? And so this is another way that you're chosen as a chosen one, is that you have been appointed, anointed, and delegated as influential. If the Lord is putting it on your heart to post on social media, that's not a coincidence. That's what the chosen ones are doing at this time. And perhaps maybe for you, it might be just going around, maybe you don't want to do social media, maybe the Lord has you just talking to people close to you, spreading a message like street preachers, right? Where it's not even to that, but maybe just sending a message. We lead by example, right? And so this is what I was saying yesterday. The example got set many years ago of women to feel that all they were worth was showing off their body, and for sexual endeavors and for making babies and things like that. And so because of that, it influenced other women that maybe didn't feel that way once, but then they had to because society was pressuring them. They started to act that way. And all it led to them was negativity, right? And also with the men started to get influenced along the way, where it was cool to just cheat and abuse and be a freeloader and to be a user and to do criminal activities and all this other stuff. And men had put out this image, and women had put out this image, and this image was derived by the devil, and it was toxic. But of course, at first, like I said, if you eat good food all the time, you want bad food. So because we were fed good food for the most part, we were enticed by that bad food, that bad seed, right? But then once we consumed it through our eyes, ears, mouth, brain, whatever, hands, we understood over time that this wasn't what was best for us. We started to see marriages crumbling as a result. We started to see corruption in our youth as a result, corruption in our society as a result, mental illness as a result, right? We started to see over time what we reaped from these seeds that were sown. And we realized it wasn't good, wasn't a good harvest. And so now we're like so aware, and we want things to change. We want, we want marriage now. We want a wholesome family now. We don't want to cheat. We don't want our spouse to cheat. We don't want criminals living around us. You know what I mean? Like, we're becoming so much more aware of the world that we live in, and we want the old way back. And so the Lord is saying that was the whole point. We wanted religion out of schools. We wanted to throw away with Christianity and adopt all these alternative lifestyles. But now that we've done that and we're seeing the effects, now we want Christianity back. Now we want to go to church. Now we want to have religion back in our schools and things like this. We want to go back to the basics. And so the Lord is saying, that's the whole point. I had to let you, eat bad foods for several years, because that's how long it took for society as a whole to realize, hey, these bad foods aren't good for me, or bad seeds, however analogy you want to see it. And now I want something good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good physically, mentally, emotionally, right? Spiritually. And the remedy for it is good food. If you eat good food, good seed, good soil, you're going to feel better physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so now that we've become aware, overall, the Lord is bringing us back to that, resetting it, like I said in the word yesterday. And again, the Lord had to use so many influences. He had to use our leadership and our governments, our leadership in the governments, the social media influencers, the men and the women as a whole, the children, the youth. He had to use all these variables in order for us to see how askew we've been, or we've gotten as a society. That's what it took. Because if it was just one person or 100 people or even 1 million people, it wouldn't have been enough to change, to impact, right? And so of course it took years to influence billions and billions of people, but it's happened. And so now that we're aware of this on a massive scale, the Lord has now started to, and is in the midst of this, and will continue to do this, restructure, reset, reframe things back to the way that the original blueprint that we originally had and that he originally intended, right? And we can't blame God. That's the thing. God's saying that so many people blame him, like, well, marriages are falling apart, thanks God, crime is on the rise, thanks God. And God is saying it was never him, it was ourselves. We chose to do this. We chose to decriminalize drug use and drug users, and to pat them on the back and to empathize with them. We chose to do that, right? God didn't do that. We did that. We chose to say, oh, poor you have a drug habit. Here, let me give you this, let me do that, and coddle and care for them, right? When 50 years ago, we didn't view it that way. And we chose to give criminals a slap on the wrist and try to rehabilitate them back into society, reintegrate them. 50 years ago, we wouldn't have done that. We were like, lock them up and throw away the key, right? And I'm not saying that one way or the other way is the right way to think. I'm just talking about how it was in the past and how it is now. The contrast, right? This is the difference. We used to shame on LGBTQ thinking. We used to shame on that. And nowadays we embrace that, and we try to put down anybody and try to judge them and say they're hateful and all this stuff if they try to say what's right. And so the Lord is saying, like, where was it me? I never once told you all to go and embrace LGBTQ. If anything, my word has stood 2,000 years ago and counting that I'm against that. I never told you to embrace drug addicts and criminals. I never said to do that. That's what you as a society have decided to do, And the Lord didn't enact Biden as leader. The Lord didn't enact Trudeau as leader. Like, these are things that we chose and we did as a society. God didn't create a smartphone. God didn't create internet. Man did. And so human man did all these things. We've done this to ourselves. We've done this to each other. We've done this to our spouses. We've done this to our youth. And so the only people we have to blame is ourselves. But yet everybody wants to blame God when things go wrong. But the very thing that's bringing things back to right again is God. So, he had to give us a taste of our own medicine and show us the harvest that we reap when we sow bad seeds. And we chose I chose, you chose, our neighbors chose to sow bad seeds. So it's not a real coincidence, a real surprise that we reaped a bad harvest, right? And so the Lord is showing us that, but He's not gonna punish us forever. He's going to reset things back to how we want them to be, and He's working on that, right? The Lord is showing me like the Israelites, like if you know the story of the Israelites, how the Lord, they were a chosen people, like the Lord cared about the Israelites. That's why He appointed Moses over them and stuff. But the Israelites were like just like spoiled and stubborn and foolish. They didn't understand, and they were almost like a deer caught in headlights or something. And so the Lord is telling Moses what to say to them, and then Moses is being like the go-between, and then He's bringing, then the Israelites were grumbling, they were hungry, and so the Lord was feeding them with manna, and they didn't want manna anymore, now they wanted meat. And so it's hard to explain how it goes, but I know what the Lord's trying to say. Yes, Lord. He's just trying to say, like, if you've read about the Israelites, you get the feeling like I have about how they were, right? How they thought. And the Lord is saying that's like society. Like where the society is never pleased, like the Israelites, they wanted this and then they didn't want that. Now they want this, so then the Lord gave them that. No, they don't want that. And so the Lord is saying, this is our society today is like the Israelites in the same way, where, when we had the good seed, we wanted the bad seed. So then the Lord gave us the bad seed as per request, and then it reaped a bad harvest, and now we're crying and whining because we want the good seed. So now the Lord's going to give us back the good seed, but He's saying, but you best not turn around and down the road in the future, cry and whine for the bad seed again. Like, what do you want from me? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? You wanted the bad seed? I gave it to you. You want good seed? I gave it to you. Like, please. And so the Lord is saying that that's how we're like the Israelites. And so He's trying to appease us, trying to give us what we want. But then we realize it's not what we want, okay? So, and just like how the Lord spread the Red Sea and separated the Israelites from Pharaoh and his army and saved them and led them to a different land, the Lord is doing the same thing with society. The Lord is spreading the Red Sea for society and bringing us to a different land and drowning out Pharaoh's army. And Pharaoh's army is basically the army of the devil. The devil is after us and trying to not have us go to this new and better place, this new and better land that the Lord has set out for us as a society, and the devil's after us to try to stop us from going. But the Lord is saying, come hell or high water, y'all are going. If I have to split a sea to make it happen and drown out the devil and his army, I'll do that. And so that's what the Lord is doing. But again, this takes time, and so we're expecting this, but the Lord is saying He's already been doing it. He's slowly, over the course of time, started to open people's eyes and make them realize, hey, I've been eating bad foods. Hey, I'm under a bad influence here. Hey, the way that the schools conduct themselves isn't tip-top shape. Hey, our leadership that we currently have is not tip-top shape. This is not right. The way that men behave and the way that women behave. And the Lord is saying one of the things that have caused this shift and this change is not just the Lord Himself, but His chosen ones. He has delegated. I personally have been on a crusade myself for the last 5 years. I've been awakened, and I have been opening people's eyes to certain things off camera, like just in my day-to-day life. I've been opening society in my own ways to things for the last 5 years. I personally have been putting public messages out on my channel now for about 1.5 years. So, and the Lord actually led me to start my channel back in September 2022. And I held off for 6 months, because of myself. I was just not sure if that's what was right for me or what the Lord really wanted me to do. And now that I see it, I look back and I'm like, man, I wasted 6 months. That was 6 months that I could have been putting out material. And the devil is trying to stop me. He's trying to stop my views. He's trying to stop my comments. He's trying to stop YouTube from posting my videos. He's trying to stop me from being in the algorithm. But the thing of it is like the Lord's already told me, the Lord says my videos have more views than it shows. A lot of people's videos actually have more views than it shows. I saw another content creator that I personally follow that the Lord led me to, that the Lord assured me is highly anointed, and I know this person is. They have like a 10,000 subscriber following, but yet maybe 500 to 1,000 people watch their videos. Really? So you mean to tell me that according to YouTube stats, this person has over 10,000 subs, but less than 1,000 watch their content. So 90% of their subs don't even watch them. That doesn't make sense. I don't, and so the Lord has already revealed to me that no, way more people watch that content creator's page than it looks to you or I. But the devil is trying to stop people from coming to their content because what they're talking about is real, right? And the other reason why is because the devil wants to discourage this content creator from putting out content. If this content creator sees that they have 10,000 subs, but less than 1,000 people watch their content on a regular basis, maybe they will get discouraged and stop putting out content. And I know the feeling because that's exactly what the devil does to me. The devil literally has it so that I have comments disappearing. I've even screenshotted them when they were there and went back an hour later and they're gone. And why would the person delete their comment when they're literally taking the time, effort, and energy out to put a long, nice comment? You know what I'm saying? And then I've even had people reach out and say to me, why are you deleting my comments? I don't delete comments. Why would I delete any, positive feedback, any comments? I actually answer every comment that I come across. But I've even seen my reply to said comment be gone. Like, how is it that I've had the same amount of subscribers for over a year now? I've been putting content out on a regular basis on my channel, and I have the same amount of subs that I did a year ago. Exact same. It doesn't make sense. There is more people watching my videos than it reflects. There's more people watching other content creators' videos than it reflects. But simultaneously, at the exact same time, the devil is trying to thwart people from coming across my content and other people's content. Why would that be? Because this is real. This is true, what we're speaking about. It's a battle every day between the devil and God, right? God pushes me to put out the content. He protects me and other content creators. But the devil is right there trying to steal it immediately. The Bible talks about this, that the devil will try to come and take the seed from you, right? And so the seed is the prophetic word or message that the Lord gave me. So the devil tries to steal it, And so anyways, so the devil's busy trying to promote toxic, influential people and discourage the healthy, influential people. And the healthy, influential people are the chosen ones. But God is right there as our defender, promoting the chosen ones as influential people and their content simultaneously at the exact same time. And trying to open up society's eyes on a day-to-day basis to the toxic influence that we're currently under at this time. And it's working. People were in favor of Biden and Trudeau a year or 2 or 3 ago, right? But they're not anymore because of influence. People, women 5 years ago were, in favor of these toxic, influential female figures on social media, but we're not anymore. And same with men, right? And so it starts. And then once this happens, we can alert our youth because now mom and dad can be better parents, which will then open, if mom starts dressing better and conducting herself better, the children are going to as well, especially the daughter who you're emulating. You're a leader. Like, that's the thing too. As a mom, you're a leader of your children. You're a leader of your daughter as a female. Teach her to respect herself. Teach her to respect others. Teach her to not lead by her sexuality, but to lead by her heart and to lead by her brain, Help her to foster and harvest her skills, whatever they may be, right? Her talents that God gave her, her gifts. And men, same thing. Teach your son how to be respectful. Teach your son how to be a man and to provide and protect. Like your great-great-grandpa did. Like your great-great-grandma did. What was your great-great-grandma doing in the 1940s? Well, she was probably sewing. She was probably cooking. She was probably baking. She was probably gardening. She was probably, rearing up her children, teaching them things. Okay, so what are we doing today? What was wrong with that? You know what I'm saying? What was granddad doing 50 years ago? Well, he was probably working. He was probably providing for his family. You know what I'm saying? Teaching his son things like how to fish and how to build stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, let's just get back to the way that things were supposed to be. And as a result, we're going to create a generation of children, of youth that are responsible, smart, practical, hardworking, obedient, disciplined, things like this. And so that's the thing, is that people complain because nowadays youth is, oh, they're unruly and they're wild and they're this and they're that. And yeah, they are. And can you blame them? Look at the environment around them, right? And so this is the thing. Our answer is not to keep putting youths in jail or to keep putting people in, giving criminals and addicts free reign. This is not the solution. And to create an entire month to celebrate LGBTQ. These are not the solutions. The solutions is to stop these things like how we did back when. But when up until recent times, people thought that these ways of going about life were great, they were wonderful, it's very difficult to change society back to proper when they're embracing these nowadays ways of handling issues that were handled in a much more effective way, a more beneficial way back in the past. And now at this simultaneously, while we're embracing the negative, we're sitting here crying and whining and blaming God that things aren't more positive. And God is saying, what do you want from me? You're going to have negativity surrounding you because you're embracing it. How can I create positivity from negativity when you're embracing it? So he has to wake us up to the negativity that surrounds us so that we can change gears and shift our mindset and instead start to embrace positivity and healthy things instead of embracing toxic negativity instead, right? But again, these things take time. And so the Lord has to undo the factors. Like I said, our diet, that's the quality of our food that's being provided to consumers, it's affecting how we think and how we feel and how we behave, right? So the Lord has to fix that food supply. Like I mentioned this in my word yesterday, the social media influencers that we're being influenced by, that we are surrounded by at this time, they're putting out toxic negativity, whether they realize it or not, and we're lapping it up, whether we realize it or not. So the Lord has to switch gears and same thing, turn that from a bad negative seed into a good positive seed and put out positive influential influencers. And he's doing that through his chosen ones. And he's been doing that for quite some time. The Lord's reminded me of a word I put out a while back, said like the chosen ones rule the world. And there's many reasons how the chosen ones do rule the world at this time. And this is one of the several many ways that they do, right? And because it only takes one person. Yes, I am one person, you're one person. So how can we really make a ripple effect when we're just one person, one mouth? Well, because that one person goes and speaks out on a regular basis to 5 people, say 10 people. Sorry. Those 10 people go and do the same thing and pass the message along. I talked yesterday about how there's trendsetters and trend followers. It doesn't take long. A trend sets with 1 or 2 people or just a small handful of people. It goes viral. It doesn't take long for people to jump on that trend bandwagon and start following that trend, right? And it makes an impact. It's the same thing, is that there's people that will follow trends and there's people that will set them. And so God's chosen ones are not only influential, but they set the trends for things. They're setting the trend for, hey, it's trendy to wear proper clothing. Hey, it's trendy to work on yourself internally, not externally. Hey, it's trendy to be a better mom and a better spouse and a better wife and a better person in society. Hey, it's trendy to follow Jesus Christ. You know, you're tired of attracting toxic men in your life? Try this. You're tired of your children being reared up with toxicity and negativity, no matter how hard you may try? Try this. You're tired of feeling crappy every day, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? Try this. And so these chosen ones, influential females, are setting a new trend for females to follow, and vice versa with the males. And we're seeing chosen men, we're seeing chosen women, and they're putting out their content in various ways, but it all shares the same message. right? And the key, it's not lost on us. The key is Jesus Christ, Father God. That's the key here. It's always been the key. It was the key 2,000 years ago. It was the key 100 years ago. It was the key 10 years ago. It's the key today, and it'll be the key 100 years from now. It doesn't change. We may change, but God never changes, right? So therefore, all you really have to do is just embrace Jesus Christ and Father God, and you're going to get back to where great-great-grandma was, great-great-granddad was, because a lot of them, like I put in my word about generational curses, there's generational curses in our bloodlines, yes, but we also had, like, a lot of people in my family followed God and went to church, right? There was God-fearing in my family bloodline as well. And so I have a bit of both sides. I have the bad seed that was sown into me from my generations, but then I also have the good seed that was sown in me too from my generations. And the Lord is saying we're all like that. So as long as you follow Jesus Christ, Father God, and not other gods, not other religions, you too are going to see things how they really truly are. You're going to see how we're failing in society, how our leaders are failing. Our government is failing. How the social media influencers are failing us, right? How our basic diet is failing us, our food supply. You're going to see these things. And it all starts with having a close relationship with Father God, Jesus Christ. And you're going to become the woman that the Lord designed you to be and attract the men that the Lord desired you to attract. And raise the children that the Lord desired you to raise, etc., right? And so it's one seed at a time, one person at a time. So if one person, embraces Father God, Lord Jesus, and their Christianity, and then they go and speak to 10 more, and then they do it, and then they do it, and then they do it, before you know it, it may take months and some years even, but it's taken us several years to get off course. Imagine getting off course, taking 30 years to get off course, and only 5 years to get back on course. You know what I'm saying? The Lord can turn it around, and He is turning it around, right? And so this is the thing, is that the takeaway messages from this is that the Lord is purposely using these situations. It's not lost on Him. He's not sitting up there, pacing around, confused, ignoring, unsure as to why Biden and Trudeau are in power. He's not, there's a reason. It's because He wants to show the bumblingness of them, the insufficientness of them intentionally, so that we can enact proper leaders in the future and appreciate them as such and know what we need as a society to better run the country, right? It's not lost on Him what's going on with the youth. He knows exactly what's going on with the youth. But He needs to let the youth suffer, so to speak, so that we can pay attention to it as a society and acknowledge it so that we can do better by them, right? Because if the Lord just left things how they were, and society continued on in the dark like they were, and youth continued on in the dark like they were, and we followed these insufficient leaders that are in the dark, and we're in the dark with them, now the blind's just leading the blind everywhere. And it's just going to go on, and things are going to get worse. Somebody has to see, and I've said this so many times in my videos, somebody has to have vision and see in order to lead the blind around. And once that person, and I'm talking about spiritual sight here, by the way, once that person gains spiritual sight, they can teach others and lead others to Father God so that they too can get their own spiritual sight. And before you know it, one touches one, like how one candle lights another, and eventually you have a bunch of people that were once blind and in the dark, and now they can see. Right? And when everyone can see, we can take up as a collective to shift and change these things once and for all. And so it starts with us. This is the message I was trying to drive home in my video yesterday. It's us. It started with us going off course. The Lord allowed it to show us, to teach us a lesson. Now it starts with us to be aware and acknowledge and bring us back on course. We're the ones that allowed society to get the way it is. We chose to take away certain laws. We chose to enact certain laws. We chose to take God and religion and Christianity out of school. We chose to put minorities' rights above the majority, right? I could go on and on. We chose to change the food supply. We chose to create the internet. We chose to create the smartphone. We've done this to ourselves. But yet people are blaming God for these things. But God is so merciful and so wonderful and so awesome that he's still going to show mercy on us and change things back the way that they should be, the way we're crying out for things to be, and take the backlash, I don't know what word you'd say, but like the backlash we're giving him, he's going to take it and forgive us anyway and work on changing society. And one of the main reasons why he's doing this is because for his chosen ones. His chosen ones that he's raised up, that follow him on an everyday basis, they're in this society. I'm a chosen one. I work for the Lord, and I have to live in this society. I have to raise my kids in this world. I have to come across the social media influence that I come across. I have to live under the government myself. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm a chosen one, and so are other chosen ones, and we're good, faithful servants for the Lord, and we have to live in and dwell in these surroundings. The Lord has to change it, right? There's no other way around it. So with that being said, I hope this message makes sense. I hope it finds the right ears to hear it. I hope it makes sense to you. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say here. I hope it finds you well. If I have any more revelation on the subject, I will be back. And I hope it blesses you. I hope you can take heed to a lot of the stuff, the material I put out in yesterday's message and this one, and do your part to sow good seed, to, put out good seed for others, right? Because we have to change things around. We change things for the worse. Now it's on us to change things for the better. And we're doing it through the glory and the power of Jesus Christ and Father God. So I hope it finds you well. Take care and God bless.